But the question I wanted to ask you was, when did you realize that fostering this long-term mindset was the more important direction for yourself? And was it a habit you had to force yourself into? Was it difficult to learn to start with? And if you reflect on back to maybe my age now, what was your mindset in comparison then?
Okay. I think most of us realize that having a long-range mindset is the way to go, but it's not so easy to do that, given when you're a young person especially, right? So Connor's asking, like, when did I realize that? How did that happen? So he can map his own journey to mine, I think, more or less, right?
Yeah, that would sound about right, yeah.
Okay. So I got to tell you, when I was in high school, I was not the disciplined, focused person that you see today. My mental health was not the way it is today. I was like most people. I rode the emotional roller coaster, the highs and lows, struggled through my relationships. Even though school was fairly easy for me, I didn't put my energy and effort into it. It wasn't very challenging for me. So instead, I drew, I read comics, I played video games. I did everything I could in my power to put off my studies, to the dismay of my parents, who really wanted me to get that 4.0 GPA and to go to a good college, because that's how they thought of success and your blueprint for success. And despite all the encouragement and lecturing that my dad gave me, I just couldn't get it together. And I had to hit some kind of emotional rock bottom to start to look at my life in a more critical way. Now, luckily for me, it happened when I was only 17 or 18 years old, when I felt like this is it. I'm in a very dark place, and I have to decide what kind of person I want to become, what kind of life I want to live. And it's in those dark places, those extremities that your brain will go to, especially in your teenage years, that you'll make those big decisions. And from that point forward, I started to focus up. Because what I realized in that moment in time was what Aaron is coming to the realization at 29, when I was 18, was I am wasting this opportunity. I'm wasting this shot, because you're young once and your life is less complicated when you're young, that you just have to go for it. That if there ever was a time, I'm in my prime right now and I have to do it now. The sense of urgency. Okay, so then I flipped a switch. I started to focus up on the long-term goal, and I made lots and lots of sacrifices in the short term, because I felt like that result was going to wait for me if I worked towards that. So I don't know, why don't you do a follow-up question, and then maybe I can answer it a little bit better for you, okay?
It's really interesting, because what you just said about hitting an emotional rock bottom, scratching my lip, hitting an emotional rock bottom, that happened to me as well. And obviously, I'm not going to go into the full story, but it was...
How old were you?
21.
Okay, so a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so basically, I was meant to be moving into a house with a previous partner, having a side job and working on freelance stuff. And that was going to be the main goal. For some reason or another, I still don't know why, it just fell apart. And I spent a good part of 6 months extremely depressed and working at 5 a.m. till 3 p.m. every day. And that was horrible. And I think that emotional rock bottom helped me foster the mindset that's got me to here right now. But in some ways, I'd say it's slipping. And it feels like it's not as tight or as focused as it could be.
Right.
And obviously that becomes, when you start to become comfortable, that's when I think, or I feel more comfortable than I did a year ago, say. That's why I think the focus is slipping. So as the follow-up question is, how do you maintain that mindset? Because you said you hit that at 18?
Yep.
And that's when your focus came in. How have you continued to maintain that level for up until present day?
Yeah, good question. So here's what I think. I think in the movie 300, King Leonidas, as a kid, as most Spartans were, they were sent to fend for themselves when they're coming of age, and they have to go and live in the wild and slay a wolf or something like that, as the story goes, I think. And so he's scared. He's not strong. but he has to overcome the wolf. And I guess the way that they raise their children is if you can't come back, you're not worth living. So you have to figure it out. So in my mind, in that 18-year-old teenage mind, it was life and death for me. I had to go and slay my wolf, and I had to learn something about myself. And then I emerged from that cave with the wolf hide draped over my shoulders and returned back to civilization, realizing, having learned something about myself, knowing that I didn't like the emotional state that I was in this deep, dark, depressed state. And I knew what got me there, so I knew that I wasn't going to let that happen to me again. So the cold, emotionless person that you might see in front of you was once a super emotional person, and I had to divorce that part from my mind and from my body. So here's my guess at it is that 2 years ago, you ran into a similar dark situation. You figured your way out, but you didn't figure out all the lessons that you needed to learn. Like you survived, but maybe you didn't slay the wolf. And that's why these problems are cropping back up. So what I would do if I were you is to reinvestigate in your mind, like what happened there? What is it that you learned? So I'm all about squeezing the maximum learning from a situation so I don't repeat it again. So, the reason why you study history is not to repeat it again, okay? The other thing is you're asking about, well, how did I stay focused for that many years? Because it's been a long time. I've been working more, I guess, not you obviously, but for some of these, no, I have. I've been working now more than you guys have been alive. So how is it I've been able to maintain the momentum and the focus? And mostly I have to tell you, I have an addictive personality. And nothing is as addictive to me as success. So when you make a small sacrifice and you realize, oh, there's a short-term gain here too, it's like, wow, okay, this is cool. And I could see it from the very beginning. When I went to college and I decided to stay in the computer lab or in the library and browse books and kind of understand what's going on, or spend extra time working for my professors while other people went out, hanging out, shopping, drinking, doing whatever people do in college, and no judgment there. But I could see that I was moving faster and further than most people. And so that told me, I think I'm moving in the right direction. So much so that by the time I finished my second year in college, my classmates, the same classmates that took the exact same classes as me, were asking me on how to improve their layout. And I was aware, I had the wherewithal to say, wow, in my mind I was thinking, didn't we take the same class? And why aren't you getting the same amount of information? My only suspicion at that point in time was they hadn't learned everything that they needed to learn. They weren't fully committed, mind, body, and spirit and soul into learning. That's how I chalked it up. So my entire life has now been built around, look, I might not be as talented, I might not be as good looking, I might not be as articulate as the next person, but man, I am going to out hustle you. I'm going to outgrind you because I'm going to learn and I will not stop. And that's the thing that's been moving me forward, right?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That's
that,
really good perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to add something that I heard you say, Chris. Like, I feel like in order to keep going, I noticed with Chris, like, you have to celebrate that you improved.
Yes.
Like, you have to feel like you're succeeding, or else if you feel like you're always failing every time you try something, then you're going to lose steam and you're not going to want to focus anymore because it's not working. But if you just look at it as like you're always succeeding and always find the success and celebrate it, even in like a failure, then you're always going to be motivated to keep it going because you're going to be like what Chris is saying, like I feed off that success, but you have to see it as a success.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at it as you failed all the time, you're going to get, you know, you're going to lose focus because it's like you're not doing it.
Yeah, I guess a big part of that is like recognizing what that success looks like.
Yeah.
With Chris, like sitting in the library and then eventually figuring out that he's learning more than the people that aren't spending as much time studying, like he recognized that that is advancing him in his learning. So I think that's something that it's hard for me to kind of pick up, okay, what are those advancements in understanding what I'm learning and what I'm actually making progress on.
Like, I got a good example here is like I recently made a video and I was all jazzed up about it and I read this book and I was super excited, but it didn't get all the views. It didn't get as many views as I wanted it to.
Right.
And the old me would be like, oh man, I suck. I'm a failure. I should stop making videos, you know? But the new me that has been brainwashed by Chris is thinking like, do you guys see the audience retention on that thing? Like people watch the whole thing, you know? And
all right.
I'm like, I look at the video and I'm like, dude, that's like what I wanted to do. The little Casey Neistat transitions and like everything I wanted to accomplish, I accomplished it in that video. And like, it's not perfect, but I see it as like, dude, Aaron, you're doing good, man.
That's a success.
Good job.
Right
It's a success, you know?
Right.
So I'm gonna
Celebrating
keep moving.
small victories.
Yeah, now I'm excited to do the next one, you know?
Yes.
So the
Actually,
fact that
I actually want to ask a question on that is, at what point do you like not let the success get into you and then, you know, kind of get that ego overpower the focus that you have?
like in a good way, like you're like too jazzed up, like I'm the greatest.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. I have to talk to Arun about this, right? Arun and Aaron. I love this, okay? We need one more A name and then we're good to go. Why do we have to feel like there's a limit on how much we celebrate our accomplishments? As long as it's happening internally. There's a difference between yelling out to everybody, yo, I'm the baddest mofo in the room. That's different. That's not confidence. But why can't internally we say, damn, dude, I did something good.
Right.
That retention graph, it's off the freaking hizzle right now. It's at 80%. This is fantastic. And I've done things and I produced a video I didn't even think I was capable of doing just 6 months ago. Why do we have to cap it, you guys? Now, somebody asked me earlier today, because I was doing a business boot camp thing, right? They asked me, like, what's it like inside your brain? I'm like, it's a scary place if you want to crawl inside this brain. Because I love myself. I love everything I do. I love my life. I love my wife. I love everything. I celebrate that. And things that I don't love, I just get rid of. I just get rid of it as fast as I can. That's not always possible, but I try to do that.
So those thoughts creep into your mind of this little perfect world. Sometimes, oh, Chris, you suck, man. You should quit. But you're like, no,
I don't have those thoughts. Not anymore. Those dark thoughts haunted me as a 16-year-old boy, thinking, gosh, my parents aren't rich like these kids are. I don't wear those nice clothes that person is wearing. I'm not popular like that person. It was always comparing about me being less than those people. And I just wanted to disappear and be invisible for most of my life up until that point. So it wasn't into that dark wolf cave thing where I'm like, gosh, I hate feeling this way. I hate feeling this self-pity. I hate comparing myself. I hate this sorrow. I hate trying to please other people, and I'm losing myself in all this stuff. And if I keep going down that path, it's a dark, dark place, and I don't want to be there anymore. I don't want to ride that emotion roller coaster because I'm on the high highs, and then in an instant, somebody says something, and I'm on my low lows. And I thought to myself, I'd rather trade the high highs and the low lows to be somewhere in the middle. And I told my therapist this. My hero growing up was Spock. She's like, that's tragic. That's a tragic character, by the way. It's sad. We need to re-examine that. I was like, Spock. Spock like had a superpower. He could do the Vulcan pinch and you're out. He always ran his life through logic. What made the most sense, right? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. He threw himself in the cauldron. He was done. That's how he looked at it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was willing to do. I wanted to get the job done. I wanted to strip away the emotional part and just do it. And those kind of thoughts now, the you suck things, they don't enter into my brain anymore. The shield, the wall has been so fortified that it's very hard for those thoughts to get through.
You got to build that up, though.
You have to build it up one step at a time. One step at a time. Yeah. And so what you want to do is you want to turn that negative self-talk that people talk about, like you're not good enough, nobody likes you, nobody ever like you, and you'll never get there, to the positive self-talk where this is good, I am valuable, the things I create, few can do. Right? Agreed. Clients are lucky to work with me. That's the voice I hear right now.
So was there any tips that helped you change the voice in your head? Maybe you talk about trying not to stay emotionally connected to it, but it comes with time, but is it you kind of creating a mantra for yourself, like, okay, like I'm great at this. I just succeeded in something. All
right, one simple tip. Here's a life hack. Be grateful. Start your day and end your day being grateful for things that you already have. You start to train your brain to attract positive things. So in the morning or at night, maybe at night, you write down the 4 or 5 things that you're grateful for today. And what's even better than just writing it down is to go tell the people that you're grateful for that are in your life. So somebody can say, write 3 things you're grateful for, write 1 person that you're grateful for in your life, and write 1 lesson that you've learned today that's a positive thing. And you start to train your brain to seek positive things, okay? The cool part is when you thank somebody for helping you in your life, they feel pretty good, but you feel even better. It's kind of weird in that it's the one thing you give to somebody that you get more in the act of giving to that person. So people on a regular basis confess, testify to how much these videos or the content I'm producing has helped them. And I suspect, even though I feel really good about it, they feel even better by telling me. Because giving gratitude is a way to align your own happiness. And I think that's one way you can do it. Like love your success. Love what's happened. And what Aaron is telling you is definitely a transition in his mindset. And I'm happy to be the credit for brainwashing him into loving himself. Because he's right. He produced this amazing video. Matt, myself, we're looking at it thinking, God, this video is going to go bananas. It's going to just tear the roof off this joint. And then it comes out of the gate, it's like it's puttering along. It's not doing horrible, but the old Aaron would have been, oh, dude, oh my God, you suck. This is terrible. I should just give up. I should just go back to finance.
Yeah, give me the mop and I'll just mop the bathroom.
Like, I know,
suck.
There's a bad spill in the bathroom. Let me just take care of that. My dreams, it was foolhardy. But the new Aaron says, look at the retention. Look at the things I've learned in the process. So what he's doing is he's having a grateful mindset, a mindset of gratitude and appreciation. He could be working out in the open, digging a ditch right now under the sun or under the cold, wherever you're from. But instead, he's working in an air-conditioned building. He comes into work more or less around 10 o'clock. He goes home when he wants. And for the most part of the day, he gets to do whatever he wants. He's self-directed. I didn't even understand why he has to go home and decompress from that, because the whole time at the office, he's been decompressing. But that's another story for another day.